Good morning. This is KELOLAND on the go with all you need to know in news and weather as you start your day.
Local radio stations are letting their employees go after parent company Alpha Media started making cuts across the Midwest.
Watertown Radio is laying off most of its on-air talent. It not only hurts the now former employees, but also the Watertown area.
I think it's definitely going to harm the community, hurt the community, but simply because there's not going to be any type of community and local features there. At least at this point, there isn't.
A total of 8 people were let go. News director Mike Tanner also left, although he was offered a position to stay.
The third Sunday of May annually marks the start of National EMS Week, 7 days dedicated to those providing life-saving care in the emergency medical services field. Steve Fessler is Division Chief with Sioux Falls Fire Rescue. He's been on the job for 22 years and says the role of EMS is growing alongside Sioux Falls.
They do a lot of studies that one practice you might have done 20 years ago is now obsolete and you're on to new things.
The big difference that we've seen, all the partners for the most part have remained the same. It's the volume of calls. We're seeing about 1,000 call per year increase over the last 5 years.
This is the 50th anniversary of National EMS Week, which continues through tomorrow.
Hail damage can get expensive for one car, but what about an entire lot? Car dealerships are always at battle with severe storms. One Sioux Falls car dealership says luckily hail damage can be fixed using a paintless dent repair company.
We have a pretty good sized shop in the back and we prioritize with customer cars first. And if we can get all the customer cars in, then we start looking at some of the high-end vehicles on the lot and try to prioritize that way.
For car owners, they encourage drivers to check with their insurance companies to see how they can help. Now let's get a check on today's weather with meteorologist Brian Karstens. Will we see any hail this weekend, Brian?
Well, certainly we hope not. It looks like probably minimal chances of severe weather here in KELOLAND, but certainly last night we had some severe weather in central South Dakota up through Aberdeen, some wind and hail reports. Of course, we have a collision of air masses, and look at the cold air and the results in the Black Hills. Another coating of snow last night. 36 has been the temperature as of the 7 o'clock hour. You can see on radar all the review of the storm tracks, pretty fierce lightning and storm activity in eastern Nebraska into Iowa, numerous reports of severe weather. In fact, this area centered in Nebraska and Iowa has reported now upwards of 400 reports of severe weather. 400. So it's been busy. This has been a very active spring season. We're on the northern side of a lot of these systems, and again today on the back side of this low, we're going to yield a northwest wind today. 60s for highs. That's not very warm. 61 in Aberdeen. Full look at your weekend forecast for Memorial Day coming up.
Thank you, Brian. Doug Lund's death this week not only impacted his family here at KELOLAND TV, but also his musical family. Doug was a longtime member of the South Dakota Rock and Roll Hall of Fame group Mogen's Heroes. He sang and played drums while forging close friendships with his bandmates.
I never worried about calling him and bothering him because he was always so open. And being Norwegian Americans like we were, it always started out, "How's it going? How's it going there?" And so we knew exactly who it was.
As recently as this year, audience members would ask the band where Doug was, even though he had left Mogen's Heroes more than 20 years ago.
There are a lot of lemonade stands that pop up in neighborhoods all across town as kids try to make a little extra spending cash. But 13-year-old Jonas Nyankru was struggling to make enough money so he could pay his own way to soccer camp this summer, until one passerby who stopped to buy some lemonade did him one better.
I got thinking about the sign for him, and I thought, I can make him a sign. He's just a kid, so let me make him a sign that's kind of straight to the point, shows the passing traffic what his cause is. So on the way home, I stopped, got my own some poster boards, some letters, and I made him a sign that hopefully helps him raise his $250 so he can go to soccer camp this summer.
And it seems to work. He's already raised enough money to go to soccer camp, and anything else he gets, he says he'll use to help his brothers go as well.
Palisades State Park is preparing for the holiday weekend. With the completion of a new entrance and additional campsites, officials say they are ready for a busy campground. Some campers got to jump on the long holiday weekend by setting up a little early.
Actually really hard to find a camping spot on Memorial Day weekend, but we logged back in a couple months ago, saw this open spot and snagged it up.
The new entrance has been up for weeks, but guests are having trouble finding it. We've attached the location with the story on KELOLAND.com.
And that's a look at some of our top stories.
Now let's get one last look at your weather with meteorologist Brian Karstens. Brian?
All right, some strong winds out there today. Do take note of that. We've had some high wind warnings here around Rapid City, some wind gusts over 40, possibly that 50 to 60 mile an hour range for a time this morning. And eventually moving into Sioux Falls, some stronger wind gusts over 30, likely through midday. There's a sample of that core of the wind moving right up and down the Missouri River Valley there through 12 o'clock. For the afternoon, the wind numbers will go down in Rapid City. They'll be going up in Aberdeen, though. At the same time, Watertown also dealing with some pretty gusty winds. We are going to see the wind numbers really ratcheting down overnight tonight, and that'll allow things to clear out. And really, for the most part, it'll be a cool morning. We're going to start the day probably around 40 in Mobridge. Sioux Falls will be warmer than that, but it's still going to be a little chilly. And then south winds come back on Saturday, and that'll prime the atmosphere for some returning moisture. There will be some rain chances in the region Saturday night into Sunday. We still have more analysis to do on that, but I would like to incorporate at least a 40% chance of rain for Sioux Falls on Sunday. And even on Memorial Day, there'll be some rain chances as well. Why is that happening? Well, guess what? We're not done with the parade of storm systems. This is the one exiting there up north of Fargo today, and then we get this brief break, but already another low up here in western North Dakota. There's another one to our south, and this one will be the one that'll be the instigator for severe weather farther south in Kansas and Missouri this weekend. We do find some rain, though, in KELOLAND Saturday night. That's along this trough feature there. And then we get into Sunday. See, now there, Sunday morning, there's a lot more storm activity to our south, but we're close enough to the upper level low here, and I'd like to keep some scattered rain going into at least Sunday and even into Monday. If you notice there, that trough is still hanging around Sioux Falls, and we could easily brew up some rain from eastern North Dakota into Minnesota and eastern South Dakota to start your Memorial Day. So it's not a washout, but you have to pay attention to the weather because there will be these reoccurring bits of rain with this trough overhead. Number-wise, temperatures aren't terribly chilly. I think we can still get to 70 in many locations for the afternoon. So at least on that accord, not too bad. We are, though, in the 60s today. We're going to have trouble getting to 70 with all that wind out of the northwest. I would even say for Aberdeen, let's just get above 60. And that would be an accomplishment there. Forecast on the 7 days, Sioux Falls 72 tomorrow, low 70s Sunday and Monday. Now next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there should be a warming trend. Now there could be some rain coming back to the forecast at the end of the 7 day, but we'll deal with that with time. I think that is a story in and of itself. The pattern late next week could get rather stormy again, but let's focus on some dry weather. I know some of you in southwest Minnesota and northwestern Iowa are begging for that. You've had way too much rain the last 30 days, and we're getting more again, chances at least this weekend. Aberdeen, you've got a shot at rain too, Sunday into Monday. It's in that 20 to 40% range. Still in the 70s for Pierre for the weekend, but then we start to turn up here, go up to 80 or 81 by Wednesday, and Rapid City also should be warmer next week. It's been cool this spring, and I think for Rapid City, you could use some days in the 80s. Check out the details of the rest of the forecast at KELOLAND.com.